All right, I'm sure as you all know, Trump's big bad bill has just passed the Senate, but now needs to go back down to the House to be voted on. And look, there's really no other way to describe this, and this is not hyperbole here. Okay, this bill is objectively pure evil. It is one of the biggest redistributions of wealth from the bottom to the top in American history. It is literally reverse Robin Hood. Rob from the poor, give to the rich, then claim you're helping out the working class, and then claim that everything you're cutting is it's just fraud and waste and abuse, or it was an illegal immigrant or something like that. But you're not actually doing anything to replace it. You're saying up fraud, got to cut it, but you're not reforming it. You're just cutting it and then giving the savings to billionaires who are already the richest people in the world, and been getting more and more rich each year. But so this bill, it's gonna make healthcare for a majority of Americans, particularly the poor, way more expensive. Energy, electricity, way more expensive. College, way more expensive. So let's go through it a bit. So for starters, for healthcare, Medicaid, which is healthcare for poor people, essentially, in a country with the most expensive healthcare on earth, Medicaid, 10 to 17 million people cut off it, gone. Let's talk about raising prices to Medicaid. So for many people on Medicaid, increased prices. A lot of them are now going to have to pay an additional $35 copay. Let's talk about the Affordable Care Act. It's going to be harder to get covered under that now. Let's talk about hiring a new doctor or get going into med school. So so right now in this country we have a shortage of doctors, and that's supposed to be one of the benefits of our healthcare system, which really isn't. But one of the benefits is supposed to be you're going to be able to go to an appointment quicker, which in some ways is true, but that's becoming a growing issue because we don't have enough doctors. So what they're doing now is they're essentially making med school more expensive. They're putting caps on how many loans you could take out. So what's going to happen is that now you need to go to private loaners, which are incredibly predatory and charge insanely high interest prices. So unless you're rich, med school is just way more expensive now, which is already extremely expensive. One of the main reasons why more people don't go to medical school. You'd think, right? You'd think, we want the brightest people going to med school, but if it's just absurdly expensive, then hey, like a lot of smart and talented people who aren't, don't come from a wealthy family might opt out. But instead of doing that, we do the exact opposite. And where does that extra money go? Where does the extra interest collected on the loans go? Where does that go? It goes to the rich. It goes to the rich who own these private loaning companies, and it is absurd. So let's talk more about electricity. So obviously, the oil companies basically bankroll the entire Republican Party, and something that they're very passionate about is destroying solar, destroying wind, destroying any kind of renewable energy, because then their business stops. So I mean, since we're just relying on, we're trying to kill all of those, electricity gonna go up 30 per, or it was 19% by 2030, and then by 2035 we could be seeing, if there nothing changes, potentially 64% increase in electricity prices, which yet again is just all going to go to big companies anyway, so it's a win-win for all these rich billionaires. It, it is not even a serious opinion to have anymore that climate change isn't real. It is simply not. You are just not a serious person if you don't believe in it. It is scientific consensus right now. And the funny thing is, when all the stuff with Al Gore first started with climate change, it was all, oh, that's a hoax. That's a hoax. Come on, man, Bear Pig isn't real. And now their response is, okay, well, we were wrong on the Earth warming, but that just happens naturally. So I'm not going to trust you if you were wrong the first time. That is ridiculous. And I mean, this is what they do. And when you hear all their excuses for, we're just cutting the fraud out of Medicaid, it's, no, you're not. So something that Mike Johnson was claiming is that some of the fraud happening is that you have all these able-bodied men who aren't working and are on Medicaid. But let's take a minute to think about that, okay? So let's say if you're an able-bodied, so to qualify for Medicaid, unless you have some sort of disability, and you're not a child or anything, it's going to be, you need to make less than 40K. So there's able-bodied men who, yet again, don't have any sort of disabilities that are capable of working, and they're hardly using Medicaid then because they don't have like recurring conditions, and they're just And I think he used this exact word. He's like, yeah, they were sitting in their parents' basement. So wait. So there's like 10 million young men in this country right now who are like what, like 25 to 30, sitting in their parents' basement playing video games every day, having their parents provide them food or any other thing they'd need, and they're just choosing not to work. Yet they're very, very serious about getting their yearly physical. That is just absurd. So also, what this is going to do now, this is also a win for this is a win for the medical or healthcare industry, because when these people have to go to the hospital, they're not going to have insurance. And guess what? If you're poor and can't afford insurance, guess what? Bills go way up. And sure, you just become a debt slave. And sure, you might be able to get help from like charities and stuff, but all that charity money just goes to these massive corporations and billionaires. Or you could go to the private insurance market, and I mean, you're gonna have to pay a crap ton. Also, good luck if you had, like a paper cut when you were five, because it's gonna raise your rates way more, or they just won't hire you. And here's the most asinine part about this. So the Republican line now isn't so much this anymore, but their like big thing was always being, we can't run up the deficit, yo. Like we can't do that. Like, look, we wish we could like pay for all this stuff like universal healthcare and stuff, but the national debt is a massive issue and we cannot do that. And to clarify, the national debt is an issue, but is nowhere near as much as an issue as they claim it to be. Now, considering what Trump did with the tariffs and stuff, now the national debt actually might be an issue, but it really was nowhere near as big as an issue as, he stated. And this bill, get this, raises the deficit by $3 trillion. That is insane. Which, for clarification, Republicans raise the deficit more than Democrats. You can look at that right now. They do. They do. They lie. They lie. But so you're cutting all this stuff. Also, I forgot to mention, because there's just so much stuff in this SNAP. That's food stamps, getting cut dramatically, because I guess it was just really hard to like give someone like a coupon, like these coupons for like what, bread and stuff. We can't pay for that. Like, look, we got to lower the deficit, but yeah, massive tax cuts for billionaires, letting them take their like yachts or whatever and make it a tax write off. Like, yeah, they could do that. They could do that. So yeah, so the fact that they are able to lower this is just like, or that they're able to raise the national debt and then claim all this is just absurd. And all these cuts on everything, and you're still not lowering the national debt. You're still not. And then you go back to the whole Doge thing, which was an absolute sham. But during that whole Doge thing, they were finding waste, fraud, and abuse everywhere. Man, there was like the transgender like play at like every government agency. And then the funny thing is the Pentagon, who actually routinely fails audits, every single time they get a series of audits, they always fail. The military industrial complex is one of the most powerful bodies in this country, and they're always going to get rewarded for it. So want to know what this bill does? Gives them 150 billion. So the hilarious thing is that was the whole theme that Republicans were setting up. Oh my God, all this government bureaucracy, so much bloat and stuff. Like, oh my God. But then the one part that really truly fails every audit, they're giving all this money to. It is just insane. And you know what they're claiming? No, fake news. This is actually going to lower the deficit by $2 trillion. Bullshit. And you want to know what else they're doing? They're pushing back when a lot of this takes place. A lot of the Medicaid stuff isn't going to take place until 2030. Why? Because they don't want to be responsible for this. They don't want to take account, because it's going to happen in 2030. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. It's going to take place in 2030, and the conversation we're going to have in 31 is going to be like, yeah, this was President Buttigieg. He did this, and actually Hillary Clinton is still working behind the scenes. It is just absolutely disgraceful. And right now, when this is one of the worst times for working class people in the history of this country, and they are just reverse Robin Hooding this all the way. It is just absolutely absurd. And president of the working class, Trump, he's going to bring back jobs for everyone and stuff. No, absolute liar. Every single Republican who voted for this bill needs to lose their seat in the Senate, in Congress. It is shameful. It is shameful.